Hi, I'm Tara from Marathon Mates. On this episode, we are joined by our very special guest, Lucia Banco, to talk about the Dopey Challenge, a fun and challenging event held every year in Disneyworld in Florida. If you love Disney, running, and having fun, this is the episode you need to listen to. Are you ready to run? Let's go.
Welcome to the thrilling world of the Flying RuNR, brought to you by the Marathon Mates.
Hi everyone, welcome back to the Flying RuNR Podcast. On this episode, we are joined by a very special guest, Lucia Banco, as we talk about the Run Disney and particularly the Dopey Challenge event, which was held last weekend in Disney World in Florida. Tim and I first met Lucia in the 2019 Dopey Challenge, and we became good friends straight away. Lucia has run a number of Run Disney events, as well as a number of marathons around the world. We are fortunate to be in Boston later this year, or earlier this year, I guess you could say, to run with Lucia to see her get her 6th star. So we can't wait to share the celebrations with her. Lucia, welcome to our podcast tonight.
Thanks, guys. I'm very, very excited to be here and to talk all things running and Disney, to some of my favourite things.
and eating.
well, I wasn't going to say that, and donuts, but
it's all good. You're in good company here. So
exactly.
Thanks, Lucia. Tim, Tony, welcome to the show tonight. How are you both going, and what have we been doing for training-wise?
We'll start with Tim this week.
Yeah, start with me. Okay, well, Team Alice, we've been ramping things up. So 1st of January, we've done our park runs, and then we've followed it up with other running runs. We did a long run this week of 15 kilometres. So we're starting to build it up. As I said in the last episode, we have taken a light December, a very light December for us. About 40 kilometres, but we are now ramping it back up because our next event is Boston in 3 months' time. So we're getting the distance there, but we're doing smart if we're going to gradually work our way back up. The good thing is the bodies feel good after the break. We feel strong. We went up to Noosa on the weekend, which is about an hour and a half north of Brisbane, and did the park run up at Noosa. So it was pretty nice up there, and albeit it was rainy and wet and humid, but it was still a nice run. About 188 people turned up for it. And then we went off to Hastings Street, which is a famous street in Noosa, for breakfast and walk along the beach afterwards. So it was a really nice day for us. So, yeah,
it was good
fun.
Lots of fun.
Yeah. What about you,
nice.
Tony?
I don't know where to start. Well, I had my biggest week for a long time, so that's a positive. We walked a half marathon on Saturday just to get time on the legs, but look, Tokyo just cannot come quick enough for me, to be quite honest, just to get it done. I know I'm 8 weeks out now. I know I've just got to put up with what I've got at the moment. I've just got pain just in too many places. So I would much prefer Tokyo to be next week so I could just get it done and out of the way. But I've still got another 7 to 8 weeks of trying to work through the pain. So this, we walked a half marathon. I was pretty happy with that we got it done at about the 15K mark. I was ready to call it quits at the next compass stop. And we walked up a hill, and that seemed to fix me, and we finished it off. So I was pretty happy with that anyway. So this Saturday, we're going to run, and it's going to be 16K, and it's going to be to our time zone. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, I just I sort of wish that I'd never heard of the bridge to Brisbane, because it's just the pain is lingering on. And anyway, that's enough misery and mud guts for me tonight. Let's get on to some exciting stuff.
All right. So let's talk about some interesting things, as you said. So, Lucia, I mentioned Boston. How can we talk about your training for that? Are you up to where we are, or you're further ahead, I think, aren't you?
Yeah, because I'm doing a 20-week program, because don't get me wrong, I take all my marathons seriously. But this one, I'm taking that extra bit seriously because I'm determined to get under 6 hours. Tokyo, I got 6:07. So initially I wasn't happy, but then realizing it actually turned out to be my second fastest marathon, I'm like, I should be happy with that. So I did 23 on Sunday. But I shouldn't complain too much about the heat and the humidity, but it was shocking. So now I'm just focusing more getting the Ks done and playing around with my intervals, because Tony, I'm like you, I do run walk intervals. So it's just trying to find one that works for me. So now I'm cutting my walk breaks down to 30 seconds, and I'm finding that that's actually making me go faster in my run intervals. So training
interesting. Yeah,
because normally I would do like sometimes 2-1 or even 1-1, but I'm probably going to break that down even further and just stick to potentially do 30-30, because the 6 hour pacer for Sydney, they did 30-30, and he came in smack bang. I think he did 5:09:45 or something like that. So it's just about like possibly maybe for the first 3 or 4 intervals, I may do 3-1 just to build up some buffer, then 2-1, or even like 2 and 30 seconds, then 1 and 30 seconds, and then for the bulk of it do 30 and 30. So now I'm just using the time now just to play with intervals to see what works better for me.
That's
smart.
exactly what this time is for, isn't it? Is to learn what your body is going to do, what your body can intake for fuel, and what you can do for pacing for yourself. And that's what Tony's doing for himself as well. So it's a great strategy for both of you, I think.
Yeah, and for me personally, I found that ever since doing the run walk, it helps with the injury, because I actually went into Dopey with an injury. There was at one point the sports doctor was not going to let me do it, and I said, no, I've paid too much to do it. I'm doing it. Just tell me what I have to do to get me there.
Hey, you mentioned Tokyo and being your second fastest time. I know, Tony, you're really concerned about the cutoffs and getting through it all on the day, particularly with the pain. Have you got any advice for Tony, Lucia?
One thing that works for me, and Tim, and this is courtesy of you as well, you had done a table with the cutoffs for with the time that I had to reach each cutoff, and I had that in my pocket. So making sure that when I got to the 11, I think the toughest one was probably the 11 one, and I had a good 10-15 minute buffer, and I was always ahead of where I had to be. And one thing that helped, I didn't take any photos during Tokyo, and normally I'm taking photos everywhere, and I didn't go to the toilet at all, because once in Tokyo, you'll discover there's a sign that says toilet, but the toilet could be 100 meters down the road.
Yeah, it's not on the side of the course.
Yeah, so it was just focusing and sticking to my intervals. I think, and also we had perfect running conditions in Tokyo. You could not have asked for better running conditions. So I was disappointed I didn't get the time I wanted, because I wanted 6 hours. But my main focus for Tokyo was don't get cut.
You know, your extra time may have come because I do remember crossing the course and giving you a cuddle as we were going out, and you were going one way and I was going the other, and I'm like, oh, it's Lucia, and I go over and gave you a cuddle. So that may have been my fault that you missed your time. Sorry.
It's interesting you mentioned the toilet breaks. Part of my strategy in the training at the moment is to see how long I last. So I'm if you know what I mean. So on the weekend, for example, I went for 6Ks, knowing I needed to do a wee, but continuing to run. So it's just little things like that. That the only one I'm worried about is the 11.1, and the rest, once we get past that, we'll be fine. So even the state that I'm in at the moment, but it's only just the fear of the unknown of when you cross the start line, I think is the real the mind challenge. But I'm like what Tim's done for you, Lucia. I've got my little table. I've got the time of day. I've got the worst case scenario, so to speak, of when we cross that start line. And then I've got our goal time. And if we hit the goal time in every time, we won't even worry about the overall cutoff, or the cutoffs at each stage. So
yeah. The toilet ones are something to be mindful of over there. They're not portaloos, they're public toilets.
And there is a lineup for them.
And quite often the public toilets might only have 1 or 2 stalls in them. And you might have a lineup for them. And as Lucia says, sometimes you've got to run another 100, 150 metres off the course down an alleyway and around the back to get to the toilet. So it is just something to be mindful of. But if you see one and the lines are pretty short and the toilet's right there, always go for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you don't need to go, just go. All right. So I guess it's time for our news break, and Tim can get to talk about all the hard names that I don't want to talk about. So go ahead, Tony. All right, Tim, speak the hard names for me, because I'm not doing it.
Well, there's not a lot of news at this time of year in the world of marathoning or long distance running. So over the holiday and Christmas and New Year period, there was a new women's world parkrun record set on Christmas Eve. It was set by, here's the name, Chiara Magany. That'll do. She's Northern Irish, and she ran it at Victoria Parkrun in Belfast with a time of 15 minutes and 13 seconds, which is just phenomenal pace. But the ridiculous thing is she didn't win the actual event. She only came 3rd overall. So there were 2 other faster runners. Chiara improved the time by 12 seconds on the world record. And she has represented Northern Ireland in athletics at major championships, as well as the recent World Championships in Budapest, where she came 4th overall in the 1,500 metres. So I went looking at Victoria Parkrun because it gets me excited to see that people are setting fast times and where they're running it. So most parkruns, they'll have a course description, and the course description might be a couple of paragraphs long that says you run down this path, you turn right at that tree, you go down here, you turn left at that building, you do a turn around and come back or whatever. This is the course description. The course route comprises of 3 outer laps of the lake circumference. That's it.
Sounds like North Lakes.
Yeah, so it's a 3-lap course of a lake at Victoria Parkrun in Belfast. So putting things in perspective, she's about 1 minute slower than the new 5K road world record, which was set on New Year's Eve. And that was set at a time of 14 minutes and 13 seconds. So she's 1 minute slower doing a parkrun than the world record is on the 5K, which is pretty awesome effort, given that parkruns are generally on paved surfaces. There's other runners you've got to contend with. You're not running on a flat track. It's got hills and undulations. So, yeah, pretty awesome time.
Excellent. Thanks, Tim. So let's talk about the thing that I'm actually here to talk about. And we've got Lucia on.
Actually, before we do, there was some breaking news coming through. I was just trying to talk and I'm muting myself to minimize some feedback. So, yeah, my fault, not yours. But there was some news come through today that Ethiopian runner Tigest Katima, I think I got that right, broke the world record for the fastest marathon debut in Dubai on Sunday, shaving more than a minute off the course record. She clocked a time of 2:16:07. She's 25-year-old, and she became the 8th fastest woman in marathon history as she took the gold.
Yep.
So
yeah, I watched that run actually, and I watched the men's. So the winner of the men's ran it in 2:05:01, and he was an Ethiopian runner on debut as well. So, again, we've talked about this in the past, Tony, these debutantes running their first ever marathons, setting ridiculous world-class times.
Unreal.
And we know that section of the course where the Dubai Marathon is held. It's sort of up and down Jumeirah Beach area, for those who know Dubai.
We did have a good bike ride along there, and it's very, very hot. So I take
Very
my
hot,
hat off to
very
the people
flat.
who are running that
Yeah,
area.
very hot, fairly flat, but it's very hot, and there's a lot of heat haze and sand in the air and things like that. So it's not exactly the best conditions to be running a marathon in. They run it very early in the morning, but I watched it. You can get the live or the video of it on YouTube as well. But awesome times from both runners on their debut marathons.
Unreal.
All right, I want to talk about Run Disney now. So let's do that. As you can see, well, if you're watching the YouTube or us on Spotify, you'll see that I've got my Mickey Minnie ears on. Tim's got his Mickey hat on, and Lucia has got her Run Disney cap on or running visor on plus her shirt. So let's have a chat about this. I'm going to kick off some questions and we'll just play it by ear how you want to go, Lucia. But tell us about your running journey and why did you get into it?
It all started with weight loss. It's, God, a long time ago now. I'll never forget. It was Boxing Day. Went into the city, into the sales, wanted to get a pair of navy pants for work. Found a pair, sale, happy days, tried them on. They weren't my size and I refused to go the next size up. I'm like, nah, that's it. I'm done. Like, I didn't want to go to the next size. And then I did the Michelle Bridges 12-week body transformation. And part of the fitness testing, you had to do a 1K time trial. And then it kind of just evolved from there. I did 5Ks, plenty of 10Ks. Then I did a half marathon. And then a few months later, I did my first marathon in Paris, which was 2015. I'm like, can't be that hard to do a marathon. I vowed I'd never do, after I crossed the finish line of that, I vowed I'd never do it again. And I purposely booked my hotel. So it should have been a 10-minute walk. What was a 10-minute walk turned into a 45-minute walk. On the bench, I'd sit down for a good 5-10 minutes. I was lined up for New York. And it's just one of those things that, for me, like, I'm the only one that can get the results. Like I can have, like, I've had coaches, they've given me plans, but unless I put in the work, I'm not going to get the results. And I've made some amazing friends out of running. Like I never would have met you guys. And so many other people. So it's just been like the adventures. It's like the things that I've been able to achieve as a result. Like, I never thought that I would have been able to do Dopey and also do London and Chicago within a week. It's just, I've just done some crazy things, and it's just a satisfaction when you cross that finishing line. Like, and then especially with the marathons, that not everyone can do it. So it's just like, it's a unique thing to be able to finish a marathon and to have that mindset to do it.
And that's what it comes down to, isn't it? Like, you can train all you want, but it's up here in your mind to make you finish as well. So I take my hat off to you, Lucia, because I know that, you know, you get up and you don't have somebody pushing out your bed like, you know, Tony does or I do with Tim. So, you know, you're there and you're just like, right, I'm there and I'm doing it. So well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So Tara's mentioned that you've got Boston coming up and it's going to complete your 6-star journey. So before we get you talking all about Boston, tell us about your majors journey to date. What have they, give us a bit of a rundown of each one.
So New York was the first in 2016. It's just, I would do New York in a heartbeat. Again, it was just, and the year that I did it, it was the year that Trump got voted in as well. So some of the signs I saw along course was, if you think it's bad now, wait till Tuesday. You're on better than our government. And just to see how the city came alive. Then after that, it was Berlin. Berlin wasn't my best one because Berlin I did Berlin as my 40th. So I turned 40 on the Saturday, then I ran the marathon on the Sunday. Why not? And I also had family fly out from Italy to watch me. I was on track for a PB at halfway, and then my back just gave me grief. But I'm like, no, I've got family here. I need to finish. Then it was London and Chicago. Well, originally I was meant to do Chicago in 2020, but then, as we know, the world went a bit crazy. But I still did a virtual marathon because I'm like, I'm still putting all the hard work training-wise that I've done. And for the listeners that no Centennial Park was 12 laps of Centennial Park. That's probably up there with one of the hardest things I've done, but I had people with me on every single lap. For me, it wasn't about time. It was just to get it done. Because, well, I did have a plan, but the plan went out the window after the first lap. So I'm like, nah, bugger it. I'm just going to have fun. So on some laps, I had 6 people with me. Some laps I had 1. It was just a lot of fun. And London and Chicago, they were just amazing. Tokyo wasn't my favorite either. I found it, now I don't want to put you off, Tony. I found it a bit boring, just because of all the like skyscrapers and stuff. But the Japanese people, lovely people, absolutely lovely. And I think what made me laugh with Tokyo a bit was some expectations of certain nationalities to have signs in English should have been brought down a notch. So it was different. It was amazing seeing how different people reacted to things. So each major's been unique. I do have my favorites. Like the 3 I'd probably do again: London, New York, or even Chicago. Like the thing that I love about Chicago, when you cross the finish line, you get a can of beer and then you get a bottle of water.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Loved it.
Yeah. So you've got Boston coming up in just on 3 months now, more or less.
Yes.
15th of April is the race day. What are you looking forward to about Boston?
I think just the prestige of running Boston, just all the history associated with it and the crowd support. And because I never thought, well, I didn't think I'd be doing Boston this year. And to get the 6th start in Boston, getting a 6th start anywhere, it's just amazing to me. But I think to get it in Boston, just because of how prestigious the race is, it's just going to be that little bit extra special. And to share it with friends like yourselves and also Julie as well, like just to have special people around me on that day to celebrate, it's just going to be, I know that when I cross the finish line, I'll have tears because it'll be like, being able to achieve something, finishing another marathon, but to get the 6-star medal, not a lot of people can say they've done that. So I'll be raving on about it for God knows how long.
Especially somebody like you and Tony and Sharon, Tony's wife. You guys are Jeffers, and it's, Tim and I aren't, well, Tim's a faster runner than I, but to be the back of the packers, as you guys call yourselves, it is really special that you guys are able to do these events. And thanks to our friends at Travelling Fit, that is being made possible for a lot of people that are a little bit slower or will never qualify, because it's not something I will ever be able to do. So to me, I'm very grateful that I'm able to do that as well because of that reasoning. So I guess what other runs have you done? I know you've done some Run Disney ones. So we've done Dopey Challenge. You've done one in Disneyland as well.
I did Disneyland. That was back in 2014. I did the 5 and the 10K. That was when I wasn't as serious about running. And my sister, who's not very physical at all, I signed her up to do the 5K. She goes, yeah, I'll do it. But I didn't tell her how early it started. I told her at 4:30 start after I signed her up. And she still says to this day that she beat me because I was always in front. But then just before the finish line, I think I was taking a photo of Minnie Mouse or something, and she comes zooming past. So to this day, she still says, I beat you at the 5K. But I'm like, the 5K wasn't recorded time-wise. I'm like, you've got no proof. So it was quite fun. And I also did, so after Berlin, I thought, why not do more running? So Disneyland Paris had a running challenge. So it was a 5K on the Friday night, 10K Saturday morning, and the half on the Sunday morning. So that was interesting. So the 5K was just around, it wasn't, it was mainly around the car park and then around Disney. And then the 10K went into both because Paris Disney has 2 parks. And then the half, you do both parks, but a lot of it, you go out into the village. It's a bit of highway, and then you go through the local village, and then you come back. So that was fun. But I've got to say, the worst expo ever. which bank account was grateful for. Again, still got challenge medals and support. And it's amazing how with the Disney runs that you don't have to be elite to do it, that people don't care how fast or how slow you are as long as you're doing it, because everyone is so supportive. Like when it was the 10K during Dopey, I think I was maybe about a K out from the finish, and I could see a guy, he was struggling bad. I'm like, okay, mate, what's wrong? He goes, I've got blisters. I'm like, okay, let's get you over the finish line. He goes, oh no, I don't want to hold you up. I'm like, I don't care. Like, we need to get you over the finish. So that's the good thing about running, and especially with Disney races, everyone, most of the time, everyone will help each other get to the finish.
Yep.
And it's running from Disney, happiest place on earth. So what more?
Do you want to tell our listeners about the Dopey? So the Dopey challenge you did after these races, I'm assuming, is that right?
Yeah. So Disneyland Anaheim was in 2014, and then they actually stopped the runs at Disneyland, but it's actually coming back next week. So that was 2014. Then Paris Disney was 2018. Then Dopey was 2019. And so Dopey is over the 4 days. You do 5, 10, half, and a full. And when I tell people about it, they just look at me. I'm like, hence the name Dopey, because you've got to be that dopey to do it.
But it's good fun. It's good fun.
It's so much fun. You've got it. Like, for me, Disney races aren't about PBs. For me, all my Disney races have been PWs, personal worsts. But it's the most fun I've had.
You can't get a PB if you're stopping to get photos with Mickey Mouse or Minnie Mouse along the way. So understandable.
So I guess let's break it down a little bit, Lucia. So what are your memories of each of the races? So we'll talk firstly about the 5K race. What was your memory of that one?
The 5K, the first thing that went through my mind, why am I getting up at 2:30 in the morning to run a 5K?
Yes, that would be going through my mind too.
I think that's one thing that people don't tell you about. Like, the training part is easy, but training, I think one thing that people forget that you need to do if you're training for Dopey or any Disney races, waking up at 2:30 in the morning 4 days in a row with little sleep. That's the toughest part.
Yeah, because you have to be in the race precinct by about 4:30 for a 5:30 start. Yeah. Yeah,
because I'm one of those people. I'd rather be way early than late. So, because I think I was saying it at a different hotel to you guys. I would make sure that I was on the first bus. I'd rather have more time than not, because if I'm even 5 minutes before the cutoff or something, that would just do my head in. So 5K was, oh my God, I'm actually doing this. It was just and because I'd seen a lot of stuff on social media about the famous snack boxes and the fake cheese, and just seeing how everyone gets into it, and seeing how the young kids do it and how much they enjoy it, with their families. It's just, but the 5K wasn't too exciting. It was mainly through the car park and then through Epcot, but it still was oh my God, I'm running through it. And for me, seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff, I find that stuff fascinating. Absolutely loved it.
Yeah, we sort of, our memories were that it was a dark start. You're in the dark and you've got all this sort of lighting, and Disney does it really, really well. They have fireworks at the start of all the races. They have big hype up sessions with Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse on a stage singing away and dancing. But then when you get out on the course, they have it all lit up with theatrical type lighting in places. They have character stops along the way. And as you say, you had to run through the car park. But then all of a sudden there was that magical moment where you come into Epcot, you've got the lake, you've got the theme park itself that you're inside of. And at that time of day, it's just the runners. And it's lit up and it's all fairy lights with the sun starting to come up. It's a time of the day when you don't normally get to see a theme park, let alone have it to yourself with 20,000 other runners. But we were just blown away. There's some of our best memories is of that 5K run, because it was the first time we'd actually been in the theme parks.
And as you were mentioning before about the kids and stuff like that, because we had both kids with us, as you would remember, watching their faces as well and seeing how excited they were at the time, because they were, 13 maybe?
Yes.
So, at the age where they're like too cool for Disney, but they're not really. So it was very, very interesting to watch them as well.
So you did the 5K, that's on the Thursday. Then on the Friday morning, you wake up again at 2:30, you jump on the bus, and you got the 10K. What are your memories of the 10K?
But this time I went to bed earlier for the 10K, because for the 5K, I remember I only had 4 hours sleep, because I was just watching American TV, because I just love the trashy American reality shows, the cooking shows. I'm like, no, this time I need more sleep. So this time I had a bit more sleep for the 10K. And again, and the 10K just going more, because I think it was Hollywood Studios with the 10K. And again, just going through the behind the scenes stuff and just seeing the different characters and stopping for the character photos as well, because you always knew if it was a good character because the queue was massive.
Yeah.
And again, seeing all the different costumes as well, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe how insane people go. Like in terms of dressing up, people are like, oh, aren't you going to bring costumes? I'm like, I'm bringing enough stuff over from Australia. I'm not bringing over more costumes.
No.
And how do you train and practice running in your costumes back here in Australia? You would look very weird running the streets dressed up as Minnie Mouse.
Well, in the States, it wouldn't be an issue, but here people may think, okay, she's a little bit loony.
Yep.
So 10K was a bit more fun. At that stage, I didn't have any blisters. My poor feet copped it at the end. And then the Saturday morning, but then after the 5K, I went to Magic Kingdom. After the 10K, I went to Hollywood Studios, because I'm like, I'm here, so naturally I have to do the parks. And then the Saturday for the half, I think the half was my favorite race out of all 4 of them, because I was just having so much fun, and we were very lucky weather-wise, because it was a bit chilly of the morning, but then at the same time, that didn't last too long. But I think one of the funniest things for the half and then the full was the announcer saying, please make sure you take off. I can't remember how they called the blankets, the
Mylar blankets.
My blankets. That was on repeat, because if you have it as you cross the start line, your time won't be recorded.
Yeah.
Doing that on repeat during the half and the full was hysterical. Yes, I had the most fun in the half. I think that's where I took the bulk of my photos with the characters, because I'd see a short line, okay, I'll go for it. And because of the time difference, I couldn't call family back here because it was just too early in the morning. So I was FaceTiming family over in Italy. They're like, are you meant to be running? I'm like, yeah, I am, showing them. And then I called Lisa in London. Yep. I'm like, she goes, Luch, are you meant to be running? I'm like, Lisa, I am. Have a look at this. She goes, oh my God, too much fun. It was I just had a blast. That's where I didn't care about the time, because it's like, not many people can do it.
It's just sensory overload, isn't it? Oh. You have fireworks, you have gospel choirs, you have character stops, you have marching bands, and every mile there's something on the course for you to be distracted by.
And Disney know how to put on a good show. I think by the time the marathon came on the Sunday, because I didn't do anything after the half on Saturday, I'm like, I had the chance to go to an NBA game with some other people I'd met that were staying at the same hotel. But I'm like, no, I need to rest. I thought I should get a bit of rest for the full. But sometime, during the full, I think from about the 26K, I met these people and I started talking to them. So we walked together for a good 10Ks. We were questioning life choices at that point in time. We're like, why did we think this was a good idea? And this was when we were going around, it was ESPN World, which we know isn't the most fun part to get out to there and then back from there.
And it was very, very hot that day. They were giving us sponges of ice water because it had gotten so hot by the time we hit ESPN as well.
And I remember I hadn't gone to the toilet in any other races previously, but I went to the toilet a few times in the marathon, not because I had to go, just so I could sit down for a few seconds.
And then you hit the hill with the army man who makes you run up the hill at about 32 Ks, I think it is, isn't it? So...
Thank God thank God they didn't ask me because they would have gotten some not so choice words. And then I heard of the famous balloon ladies. I'm like, do they actually exist? Because then I'd heard as long as you made it, I think, into Epcot, you won't get cut off. But then 2 of them actually passed me. Like I think I had maybe about a K to go, or possibly 2Ks. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get cut. I'm going to get cut. I think because at that point I was just taking my time. But then what I heard, it's not like with the balloon ladies, they're the indicators.
They're not official
bikes.
Yeah.
I think my one regret with the marathon was I went to cross the finish line with some kind of alcoholic beverage in my hand. And
margarita from Mexico.
Oh, literally, as soon as we got to Epcot and to the showcase, I'm like, where's Mexico? I'm looking around. I'm like, where's Mexico? I think because I was just so focused on just to get it done that I'm like, okay, I don't care. I'm done. And I can say I'm officially Dopey.
But Tony, Tony, for your info as well, it's one of those events where you take your time, but people actually jump off the course and go and ride roller coasters in the middle of the race. They'll go and stop off and grab a bar, get to a bar and have something to drink, or go and get a burger or something, and then keep going. It's a bit of a different sort of a run, and it's a run for fun rather than a run for time. So I'll wholeheartedly agree.
So, Lucia, there's always Medal Monday, as we call it everywhere else. We go to the parks the next day and you wear your Dopey Challenge medal or whatever you want to wear. How much recognition did you get from doing that?
Well, I took my Medal Monday to the next extreme, as I do. So I didn't go to the parks on the Monday. I actually boarded a Disney cruise.
Okay.
I'll listen to this, Tony. It gets better.
It gets better. So at the year that I did it, and I think it happened the following year as well, if you did the cruise right after the marathon weekend, you could do what was called the Castaway Cay Challenge, which is Disney's private island, right in the Caribbean. So naturally, I heard about that, had to sign up for that. I'd never done a cruise in my life before. So I thought, like, nothing better to do than do a Disney cruise as your first one. So we didn't. So the run wasn't until I think 3 days into the cruise and I remember some of the people like in our group, they're like, "You're going to do more running?" I'm like, "Yeah." I'm like, "It's Disney. Who cares?" So we docked in the island, I think like at 4:00 or something, and the people that had signed up to the Castaway Cay Challenge, we had to assemble at one point, and we got let off the ship first. It was a proper race, and then we got another 2 medals for that. We got the standard 5K medal, and then we got the special Castaway Cay medal because they used to do it on the cruises like a special 5K race. Like as soon as it docked into Castaway Cay, people wanted to do what they could. They actually don't do the Castaway Cay. I think this is the first year in which they haven't done the Castaway Cay Challenge, and they also don't do the 5K run anymore. Like it's more of a self-paced run that you can do. So like it's that way. Like people actually like it better that way. It's that way you can do it any time of the day. Like when you're on the island, you just go to the bike rental. You say, "Yep, I've done it," and they give you a plastic medal. It is, and like I took that run so slowly because I had bad blisters. But I'm like, I'm doing it. It was just like, and they had characters on course. It was just a beautiful way to see the private island.
5 races and 8 medals.
Yes, and 7 T-shirts.
So your oversized luggage pricing was very, very high as you were coming back home.
Lucky, and that's why I have Qantas Club membership for the additional baggage because I know I need it.
So let's go back to this additional baggage and go back one step before all these races. Tell us about the expo because we know you love a good expo.
Oh, I've got to say the Dopey, the Run Disney one, and I don't know if you guys know this, but that year, and some other years as well, you could actually pay a bit extra and be allowed into the expo early on the first day of the expo. And I can admit I did do that. I think I paid like maybe $70 US, and I met another lady who she was staying at a different hotel. and she's an Aussie as well. And we're like, well, why don't we get a cab there together? So we got there like an hour before it opened, and there was already a queue. Just like you just grab everything at first, and then you put back what you don't want. So we got our Run Disney merchandise. Like I spent way too much. But it's like you don't know if you'll get a chance to do it again. So my theories, which shouldn't be my theory, is if you want it, get it.
So Tony, there's 3 separate buildings that the expo's held in. So the first building is where you get all your merchandise that's Run Disney and Dopey related. The second building is where you go and pick up your bibs, and you think, oh, that mustn't be huge, but that's a huge building as well. And then the third building is actually the expo building, which has all the other, sponsor type products. And it's just huge. This expo, we spent probably 5 hours there.
Wow.
And we still didn't see it all. It is.
Yeah. You've got to have a good expo, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I love myself a good expo. I've done some damage in other ones.
Yeah.
Because I don't think, did I see you guys at the London Expo or not? I can't remember if I did.
Yes.
Yes. I did some damage at that one.
Tokyo, we didn't get to do damage because we stood in line for 754 hours to get one T-shirt.
Lucia, I have a very important question I do have to ask, because this gets mentioned quite a lot of one of the highlights of the Dopey challenge, and I need to know what is in the snack box.
Well, the controversy is it changes each year. So I think we had the fake cheese, and then then I think it was some kind of tortilla chips, and a juice box as they call it. It was and we also got a bottle of water.
Puree. Yeah, apple puree,
pretzels, and apple puree. There was quite a lot in our one. We had so many snack boxes left over.
But then one year they didn't include the fake cheese, and that caused the biggest controversy all over Facebook, because then you've got people in the States trying to find it online. It's like, oh my God, Run Disney, we're paying all this money, and you can't give us. They get passionate about this fake cheese.
Yeah. Is it in the realms of the Boston jacket? Is that sort of passion?
Yeah.
Actually,
yeah, definitely.
And if you want to know what the fake cheese is, think of, that Kraft cheese, cream cheese that you buy in a jar here in Australia, and it's white. It's sort of like that consistency, but it's the yellow American cheese, and it's in a little tub.
This colour, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very interesting taste, that's for sure.
But
I want to know what's in it.
The snack boxes would be, 20 centimeters long and 10 centimeters wide, probably, and they're just filled with food. And after every run, you grab a box, you sit in the bus waiting for the bus to take you back to your hotel, and everyone is just sitting there munching away on all this food. And you get back to your hotel room and you got the box there, you haven't even eaten half of it, and then the next day you get another box and another one and another one. You end up with 4 boxes by the end of it. So
wow.
You have all 4 of you doing it like in our family, and you've just got snack boxes everywhere through your hotel room. But
Disney does it really well, and this is sort of the thing we're not sort of alluding to too much here is, the moment, you get on the bus at the start line at your hotel, they pick you up, and there's a vibe in the bus that is just phenomenal. Everyone is just hyped up for the races. You get there, and the way off the bus, you walk to the race precinct area. There's plenty of portaloos. There's plenty of entertainment. There's a stage there with DJs. There's characters there where you can get your photos taken. This is all at 4:00 in the morning, hyping you up. Then you move into your corrals, and again, there's a stage there with characters and Jeff Galloway and other people coming up and talking and wishing you well and inspirational stories. And then there's fireworks to set off every corral. It's not just fireworks for the first corral, it's for every corral. And it's not just 1 or 2 flares of fireworks, it's a fireworks show for each one of them. And then you get out on course, and it just is a different vibe than any other running race, any other running event I've ever been to.
And I don't know about you, Lucia, but I know that one of my very special memories was in the half marathon course, and we'd never done Magic Kingdom in Disney World before. However, we've done Disneyland. Now, in the half marathon, you hit Magic Kingdom probably around about the 8K mark, I think it is.
Yeah.
And we were lucky enough to be there when it was dark. So they actually open up the park for spectators. They line the main street of Magic Kingdom, and you're running down, you turn a corner and you see the castle. It's lit up and it brings tears to your eyes, like, because it brings back all those childhood memories of Disney movies on a Sunday night. You know, it's really quite a special memory. And even seeing it, I'm assuming you were maybe daylight by the time you saw it.
Yeah.
But it's still very special, isn't it? It's one of those memories that will stick with you forever, I'm assuming.
Like, it's just one of those things, like, no matter each time I go to whichever Disney it is, in whichever country, as soon as I see the castle, it's just my happy place. Like, I mean, the half marathon, I think I actually have a video of me running down Main Street, and it's just seeing just other people's faces as well. It's just more, like, Disney's just one of those things that you can be in a foul mood. Like, you can be in a foul mood, but as soon as you walk into Disney, if you're still in a foul mood, something's wrong with you.
And it's funny because I was never a huge Disney fan before doing all these, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, look, there's something that's got Mickey Mouse on it. Let's buy it. So it does change your whole perspective of life.
But
absolutely.
Says me with Mickey Mouse ears on. You mentioned Paris, you mentioned Disneyland. How do other Run Disney events compare to the Dopey Challenge? Is Dopey the pinnacle of Run Disney, or are they all equally as good?
I'd probably say, in order of which ones I found done better, because they all had snack boxes. Even Paris had snack boxes. Because ironically, Paris, the runs that were done at Paris Disney aren't run by Run Disney. It's an affiliated company, and they just use the licensing. But there hasn't been runs in Paris since COVID, and people are still up in arms about that. Definitely Dopey, just for the sheer size of it. You think how it's all well organised still amazes me. Then definitely Anaheim. So it'd be interesting to see the feedback after this first one, like, because it'd been on a hiatus, I think, for about 4 or 5 years. The Disneyland runs. At one point, people didn't think it was ever going to come back. So it'd be interesting to see the feedback. But Disney just know how to do things here. So I would rate it Dopey, then Disneyland, and then Disney Paris.
And I guess this year, and it has happened in previous years as well, this year's half marathon got cancelled, or not cancelled, but cut short. So Florida, for those who don't know, is a bit like living in Cairns or so in North Queensland. There's tropical storms that hit all of a sudden, cyclones, or what do they call them over there? Hurricanes, thank you. And they do come through even in winter. So they actually had a big storm this year in the half marathon and cut it short. Even with that, they're still able to provide a really top-class event, even cutting it short. And I know that it happened the year before we were there as well, didn't it?
Yeah, I think in 2017 they actually cancelled the half, but then a lot of people at their resorts actually still did the half anyway. I personally wouldn't have done it. I'm like, no, if it was meant to be, meant to be.
Yeah, because they still gave you the medal anyway. So
so I know some people were a bit dirty on it, but Disney does have safety first and foremost, and you can't give them any slack for that. So I think they made the right decision, because if they'd gone head with it, lightning came down, people, like, if something, God forbid, if something were to happen, they would have been sued to no end. So I think Disney made the right choice.
Absolutely. There has been a race here in Brisbane. It was called the Twilight Run, and it was a couple of years ago now. That run, I don't believe, even exists anymore. However, during that run, it was a nighttime or twilight run, and a lightning strike did happen. A tree came down, and unfortunately, it didn't end overly well for the runners. So, Disney have definitely got all of their safety sides on track and won't risk anybody's life, that's for sure.
So quickly, I know we have to run short of time, Lucia, but if I was asking you as a person who was interested in maybe doing a Dopey challenge at some stage in the future and was a bit worried about running 78.3 kilometers in 4 days and doing the 2:30 a.m. starts and being able to make all the cutoffs along the way, what advice would you give somebody?
Probably the thing that I'd focus on is take all your character stops probably in the 5, 10 and a half, because those ones do have the more generous cutoffs, and then just focus on finishing the full and just train getting up at 2:30 in the morning 4 days in a row. Get up at 2:30, but actually don't start running till 5:30 and do it on very little sleep, because I think that's the one thing that got me. I didn't realize how much having little sleep and running things like that, and practice running on tired legs, because you're going to go to theme parks after the races, and have a good plan. And for the people that do run walk, find a pacer or practice how you hope to do the races is definitely how I would train. So I would do my character stops in the first 3 races and then just focusing on finishing the 4.
Excellent advice. I can't fault that in any way. Yep.
I know a lot of people we've spoken to are going, they're more worried about the distance and doing the distance in the 4 days, but the distance is not the issue. I don't think it's exactly as you say. It's the tiredness in the legs and the general tiredness overall, and training yourself for that. You'll get through the races if you can train and run a marathon. You'll be able to do the half marathon, the 5 and the 10K.
100%.
It just is the tiredness and being used to being tired and running on tired legs.
Absolutely. So, Lucia, this is something that we ask all of our guests, and we get Tony to do it because this is his little segment. It's a bit like Tim's tip, but this is Tony's Fast Six. So I'm going to hand it over to Tony, because poor Tony hasn't asked any questions. He's just listening in, and we've been rattling on as usual.
Yeah. Lucia, thank you so much for sharing your input and thoughts around the Dopey challenge. You haven't persuaded me, and as yet, unfortunately, but not yet. But yeah, Tara's right. The Fast Six is something that we ask all of our guests, and they're 6 quick questions and hopefully 6 quick answers. And if you've listened to the podcast, you know what's coming next. So, all right. So, Lucia, podcast or music?
Music.
Best running advice ever given to you?
Don't follow others. Everyone goes at their own pace.
What advice would you give to someone starting out?
Go with your gut. You don't have to be fast.
Uphill or downhill?
Uphill.
Yay!
Gels or blocks?
Gels.
And your favorite shoes to run in?
Ooh. I'm going to say Asics Meta Speed, because that got me through the Sydney Marathon. Quite.
Awesome. Thank you. One day there'll be some researchers that do research around what runners like, and they'll be referencing the Flying RuNR's Fast Six. So.
And so for our listeners, Lucia was it the 7-hour pacer this year?
7-hour pacer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone that wants to do the Sydney Marathon, Lucia is your person to get you through just to finish, and that's the most important thing. So she'll give you some great tips. So now we're up to the time where Tim gives his tip, because it's his section. So let's go for that one.
Yeah. So thanks, Tara. My tip this week is about trying to travel and do it a little bit more cheaply. I wouldn't say do it on the cheap, but a little bit more cheaply than what it can be. Obviously, races like Dopey Challenge can be quite expensive, especially taking into account flights, accommodation, food, entry, and all the rest of it. So the best tips I've got is get in early. As soon as you commit to the race, start to book your flights and accommodation. They're never going to get cheaper, or very rarely will get cheaper as you get closer to the event. So book them as soon as you know you're going. You'll generally get the cheapest prices at that point. But the other key tip is to understand things like your points and rewards programs. we all have loyalty programs that we're probably members of and don't even know. You know, we have our credit card ones, we have grocery shops, airlines, even our insurance for our house insurance has a points program. Our bank has a points program as well. So getting to understand those points, Tara and I tend to use a lot of those points from either our house insurance points program or our credit card in points program to pay for or offset some of the costs for our flights and our accommodation. Obviously, you know, we're Qantas affiliated as well because that's the airline I'm a frequent flyer of. So those points all add up, and we use those to offset some of the costs of our flights as well. So it's probably the biggest tip is really understanding those points programs that you might be a part of. A lot of people are members of points programs but don't actually realize what those points can give them or what they're entitled to, or don't even look at them. The other key to it is actually do your research before you go. Understand where you're going and making sure you're booking the accommodation at the right spot or nearby. You don't necessarily have to have the 5-star accommodation. But Tara and I, we generally see accommodation as just a bed, a shower, and somewhere to store our luggage. It's more important for us that we book somewhere that's close to where we need to be. And
sometimes booking the cheaper hotel rooms can be further away, which then cost you more in transport and Ubers than what it was going to cost you in the hotel room for being a little bit closer.
Yeah, and sometimes the hotel rooms, they'll charge you more just because of the amenities that they've got in there, the gyms, the spas, the conference facilities, all those sorts of things that you're never going to use. So maybe look for accommodation that doesn't have all those, and you'll probably find it's cheaper, but the quality of the rooms is good. And I guess the other big tip for us is we tend to pick accommodation which has food or breakfast included in the price, because then we usually get a buffet breakfast included, which fills us up, which generally means we then don't need to buy lunch or a big lunch when we're out. We tend to only eat 2 meals a day when we're traveling, breakfast and dinner, and maybe have a snack or two along the way.
And it's usually an earlier dinner so that we sort of,
Yeah. So they're my tips, how to make travel somewhat a little bit cheaper for your running races. Back to you.
Excellent. So because we're getting to the end of our episode, I'm going to hand it back over to Tony and find out what's happening for next week.
Oh, yeah. Next week, I'm pretty excited because as regular listeners of the podcast know, I'm a big fan of the Long Run Podcast, a UK running podcast based around the amazing 40 Runs community. So we are having a conversation with one of the team from the 40 Runs community, Hayden Harbard, who is a host, one of the hosts of the podcast. He's one of the volunteers that work within the community. He recently ran New York and completed his 6 stars. So we're planning to have a great conversation with him around the 6-star journey, but we're also looking to understand how he got into running. And the parkrun phenomenon is huge in the UK. So how the 40s help with the park runs. And really trying to get an understanding of how this 40 runs community started from one person being anxious at a starting line to where they are nowadays as the largest running club in the UK. So really looking forward to that conversation. It's going to be a ripper and you will not want to miss it.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Tony. So as this wraps up our episode, I'd really like to give a huge thanks to you, Lucia, for coming on and being our special guest for tonight. We've enjoyed recapping our Dopey experience, but I'm sure that all of our viewers and listeners will really get something out of this as well. So hopefully, if they've been on the fence about whether or not they want to do it, this has switched them over to go and do it. So Traveling Fit will always be able to get you through on the Dopey Challenge or any of the Disney runs if you just want to do the 5K, 10K. But that's probably your easiest way to actually enter. You can do it yourself, but you have to be up at 2:00 in the morning to get those entries happening. So We've really enjoyed having you on with us. We'll see you in Boston, and so good luck with your training until we see you next. But video of this episode will be available at Spotify, YouTube, and audio will be on Apple, Amazon, and Google Podcasts and all the other popular podcast platforms. Remember, every step forward is a victory. Lace up, hit the road, and we'll catch you on the next episode. Until then, happy running.
Happy running.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Lucia.
Lucia.
Thanks, Lucia.
Bye.